All right, moving right along. Great pleasure joining us now, my friend, former U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mr. David Friedman. David, thank you for coming on. You heard the riff, all right? A lot of things I want to talk to you about, sir, but I don't think this could have been possible, as I said, without the judicious use of military force. And I think Trump was the guy, he gave an open hand to Netanyahu. He reversed all the Biden nonsense about appeasement. And here we are in a lot better shape than we were a year ago. Yes? No?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. That was a great riff. And I couldn't have said it better, and I couldn't agree more. Look at the Biden Obama foreign policy. It was to set and then forgive red lines over and over again. They would say, "Don't do this." Biden would use the word "don't" over and over again, and his message would be ignored. Obama would set red lines, completely ignored. What does Trump do? And remember, this is the Middle East. The Middle East is especially important that people size you up and believe what you say. What does Trump do? He takes a B-1 bomber. He sends it on a 37-hour mission to Iran to thread a needle to destroy a Fordo nuclear reactor with the help of the Israeli Defense Forces, comes back. Now, when you do that and you succeed, you have credibility in the region, the likes of which no president in history has ever had. And that's the beginning ingredients. You're absolutely right. It's through that strength and credibility. It's not just having the biggest bombs and the biggest weapons, but by standing behind your policies, with real force. And Trump has done that, and no one else that I'm aware of in recent history has done that.
No one else has done that. And it's just a point, David. It's funny. All day long, as I've been watching the news coverage in many, many, many different outlets, I just say to myself, why aren't they talking about the fact that working together, the U.S. and Israel obliterated Iran? Iran is the puppeteer, the financier, the banker. Iran is the lead terrorist, okay? Time and time again, when Joe Biden told Israel not to use force, on the other hand, Mr. Trump said, let them do what they do best, okay? That is what changed. That's what's setting us up for this massive peace deal, which I want to talk to you in more detail about in a minute. But the judicious use of force, right? Peace through strength, but you have to show the Arab states, the Gulf states, you have to show the rest of the world. You have to show China, you have to show Russia that we are willing to stand up and enforce our strength. You have to do that. You don't cut and run from Afghanistan the way Biden did. That was the beginning of the end of his presidency. In August of 2021, he cut and run. He cut and ran. You can't do that. Trump was the opposite. Trump deserves so much credit for that.
And that's how Trump was able to get all the Arab countries, virtually all of them, right? Our allies, our friends, some of them not so friendly, all of them on one side with Israel, and then isolate Hamas on the other side. That's why today we have a peace deal, because Hamas has no place to go. Absolutely no place to go. They have no more friends. Their only ally is Iran, and we've decapitated them. Yeah. So that's the predicate to peace. You show that there's no alternative but to surrender, and then your enemy surrenders.
David, assess for us, please, with your knowledge and experience. We are on the verge of the hostage swap. That's a fabulous thing. It's a tragic thing, too, I mean, I don't know what all the numbers were, but there were many times bigger in the beginning of this than there are now in terms of hostages being returned, both dead and alive. But, all right, the hostage thing is going to happen. Mr. Trump said today at Cabinet, Monday or Tuesday. I believe the president's going to go there, speak to the Knesset, I believe, over the weekend, perhaps Sunday. You may know more about that than I do. Are we setting up for the rest of the peace plan? There are a lot of moving parts to it. This is one of them. This is a wonderful part of the moving parts. But how is this set up in your mind in terms of the follow-through?
Well, look, as you point out, there will be rejoicing the likes of which Israel hasn't experienced in years, if God willing, this plays out and the hostages come home, even the ones who weren't alive, because their parents want to have closure as well to this nightmare. After that, the details, the difficult details will be in the coalition that will ultimately be responsible for maintaining a non-threatening Gaza. And that's going to be a coalition of Arab countries. It's going to require some coordination. It's going to require, look, it's not a fun job. I mean, nobody really wants to be in Gaza. Israel had to go back in because nobody else wanted to police it. The Egyptians didn't want to have anything to do with it. So it's complicated. But again, the factor here again is critical because all these countries is, look, you know, I'm counting on you now to do something for me. I've done a lot of things for you. I've helped you. I've protected you. I've funded you. I've given you protection against your enemies. Okay, this little piece of land is going to explode unless you take over it, take control of it, and keep Hamas from reemerging. And most of these countries now are in a place where I think they're as threatened by Hamas as Israel is. And I think, you know, the incentives are working. You know, the details may be complicated, but right now I think the incentives work. The incentives are in place to make the Gaza Strip not only non-threatening, but, you know, maybe 10, 15 years from now, actually a rather attractive place.
And I'll tell you one other thing. I agree with you about the incentive structure with Hamas and the IDF and the United States. But I think we can't lose sight of, and we must keep our eyeballs on Iran. They make one false move, David, because they are still, you know, I think they're broke now, they're obliterated, they're destroyed. I myself think the Mullah government is going to fall at some point. There'll be a popular uprising. But I'm not smart enough to know how, when, where, and why. And, well, I know why. But my point is, Iran makes one false move, I'd go get him again. Because Iran was the puppeteer, Iran was the banker, Iran was the financier, Iran called the shots, right? And Iran is the terrorist nation in the Middle East. Can't let that escape. You know, I don't want to go easy on Iran. I want to be mean and tough and hard on Iran.
We are Iran in a very good place. The military campaign was extraordinarily successful. The financial sanctions are at the point of being almost backbreaking. We can get them to the point that we got Hamas, which is a point of no return, a point where they have no friends, they have no way out, they have no way to feed their citizens. We can get there, and ultimately, I think that could bring us to a better place. But you're absolutely right. They're gonna try to outmaneuver us. They're gonna try to continue to develop weapons of mass destruction. I don't think Trump will have any part of it. Having crossed the Rubicon, and very much, by the way, against the will of some of his supporters. I mean, this took a lot of courage. I mean, it wasn't like everybody was cheering him on to do this. He did this against the will of many of his supporters. He did the right thing, did a courageous thing. He succeeded magnificently, and I don't think he's going to ever snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, he's a master. He's a master, David Friedman. We worked for him in the first term. He is a master. Anyway, Ambassador David Friedman, thank you ever so much for your wisdom. We appreciate it, sir. Take care.